Hello, it is me, your Tru Heel Phenom SP3, back once again with the weekend update, a special weekend update of the 3 count with SP3 for the weekend of January 18, January 19, 2020. There is a lot of news to unpack. I only hit you with one 3 count, the first 3 count of 2020 during the week. So we got a lot of news to talk about. On our first count, we're going to be talking about All Elite Wrestling and their new renewal on TNT, putting a lot of smiles on professional wrestling fans. The opposite of smiles is what the second count we're going to be talking about, the elephant in the room for the wrestling community, which is called the Tessa Blanchard controversy and the latest on that. On our third count, we're going to be talking about the wrestling free agency, all the type of moves going on in the professional wrestling world, whether you're in WWE, All Elite Wrestling, or just wherever, the independent wrestling world. There's so much free agency moves going on, and we're going to be talking about the latest and the greatest. And because it is the weekend, because I only hit you with one 3 count during the week, I have a bonus count where I'm going to be talking about a few notes coming off of the Impact Wrestling TV taping in Mexico City, some stuff that happened in front of the camera, and some stuff that happened behind the camera. If you heard that slap and you've seen the video, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So let's kick it off for this 3 count with SP3 with our first count, where we got to talk about All Elite Wrestling. AEW Dynamite has been officially renewed for 4 more years. All Elite Wrestling Dynamite has been renewed by TNT to the end of 2013. This was announced during the week via a press release from All Elite Wrestling as well as TNT. The Figure 4 Online Wrestling Observer newsletter broke a little bit more about it, a couple of details about the deal. It is a 4-year deal worth $175 million, which means that All Elite Wrestling will get $45 million a year from TNT to distribute All Elite Wrestling Dynamite on TNT. It is still the same ad revenue split that was a part of their initial deal last May, but this is a huge deal for them. Now it makes All Elite Wrestling profitable in just 1 year in its existence. It is already profitable. It is making $45 million a year. This is a lot more money that can be distributed to their production. TNT will not be paying for the production for All Elite Wrestling Dynamite going further. So the increase in the amount of money being given to them helps them with their production costs, as well as helping them get new talent and basically broaden the spectrum for All Elite Wrestling. This is nothing but good news for the professional wrestling world. All Elite Wrestling was a risk. It was a shot of a limb by Tony Khan and the boys from the Elite, the Young Bucks, Kenny Omega and Cody Rhodes. But this risk, this shot in the dark has paid off. $175 million over the next 4 years. One of the most lucrative deals for a non-WWE wrestling promotion that we have ever seen. WCW, in retrospect, WCW came into existence around 1990, 1991, and it wasn't until about 1997, 1998 that WCW became profitable for the first time. So All Elite Wrestling has made that accomplishment, made that goal of theirs, that the initial goal to become profitable in just 1 year's time. It is really amazing what All Elite Wrestling has been able to do. They've kind of their whole goal was to disrupt the wrestling business, and that's exactly what they have done. They have become a real competitor and the #2 promotion in all of professional wrestling, just behind WWE. It is weekly. Over the first, I think it's 14 weeks of the Wednesday Night Wars between All Elite Wrestling Dynamite and NXT, All Elite Wrestling have won 11 out of the first 15 weeks of this war, of this back and forth, of this ratings war between the two shows. All Elite Wrestling is averaging just under 1 million viewers weekly on TNT. So it is quite possibly one of the biggest success stories that has come in professional wrestling in the past decade. It is quite amazing all that they have done in just under a year. Their pay-per-views are averaging 100,000 buys through their first 3 pay-per-views, and that's sure to repeat for AEW Revolution coming up at the end of February in Chicago, which has already sold out in Chicago at the Wintrust Arena. So this is so much success after success for all the bad talk, all the people that don't like All Elite Wrestling Dynamite, feels like they cater to too many audience, that they have like the mixed bag. You don't like the Nightmare Collective, you don't like Dark Order, you don't like the Elite, and you don't like their style of tag team wrestling. All of that doesn't matter. All Elite Wrestling has found a fan base and has found supporters that has allowed them to be a success in their first 15 weeks on TV, in their first year as a promotion, and they are a success already. 1 year and they are already profitable. $45 million a year from TNT to produce AEW Dynamite. Vince McMahon put NXT on USA to disrupt what All Elite Wrestling and the momentum that they were building. But honestly, the fact that they have beaten NXT in the ratings war for 11 out of the first 15 weeks, putting NXT on USA kind of made All Elite Wrestling stronger. It made them the stronger because they can now say they have beaten WWE in the ratings war. Not only that, they went 1 week in October where they beat WWE SmackDown on FS1. So All Elite Wrestling is really mind-blowing, the stuff they have done in their first year of existence. So the renewal for 4 more years is great news. Also, with this deal, it gives TNT an option for the 4th year for 2024. So they get to basically don't have to get into a bidding war with the rest of the networks and channels, that they have the first bid for 2024 for AEW at an increased rate. So they're going to make even more money than $45 million a year in 2024 if they decide to renew with TNT for 1 more year. And if they renew until the end of 2024, the more interesting news of all of this is that if they renew for 1 more year with TNT, both AEW and WWE's television contracts would expire at the same time, which would... I'm going to keep going from where I ended off at. That pissed me off. So yeah, it's very interesting to see which channels or which networks will be a part of this bidding war if AEW and WWE, both contracts expire at the end of 2024. Whew. I don't know if it's going to be a major network, might be interested in All Elite Wrestling. Maybe a different cable television network might be interested in Monday Night Raw. It's a lot of interesting things going down in the television contract world for professional wrestling. You got MLW hiring a new agency to get themselves a TV deal. So there's a lot of mixed bag of stuff going on. Not just All Elite Wrestling and WWE. The wrestling world is buzzing when it comes to TV contracts, and we're going to keep you posted on the next 3 Count with SP3 or in future 3 Counts in SP3, future 3 Counts with SP3 going further. For our second count, we're going to be talking about the Tessa Blanchard controversy. Boy, oh boy, Tessa Blanchard, it seems like this story keeps getting deeper and deeper. We talked about everything that we knew on the last 3 Count with SP3 as far as the whole Twitter war scandal that went on with it being exposed that Tessa Blanchard called the black female wrestler La Rosa Negra the N-word back in 2017, which went into like a physical encounter between the two. This led to many of women that were in that locker room coming out and supporting the story that was first broken by Sienna, who basically replied to a tweet from Tessa Blanchard. La Rosa Negra also came out in public and basically said that the story was true. Tessa Blanchard, and the latest update, Tessa Blanchard has put out a public statement basically denying the allegations against her, saying that she's going to use her platform to fight racism, but will not admit to the allegations that have been thrown against her. But now there are more allegations for Tessa Blanchard to answer to. Fightful.com has reported that people within WOW, Women of Wrestling on Access TV, have claimed that Tessa Blanchard was argumentative and would berate people in the company, including an incident where she allegedly made one of the company's trainers cry in front of the training team. According to the site's report, a WOW roster member who asked to stay anonymous due to fear of retaliation said that they had been asked by David McLean, this is one of the executives for WOW Women of Wrestling, not to discuss the matter. They said that Blanchard would berate WOW trainers and told one that she didn't belong on the WOW training team and shouldn't be training at all. Start of my videos that I mash up. All right. So this resulted in the upset trainer being reduced to tears, and when someone tried to speak with Blanchard about the matter, she said it was being blown out of proportion. Sound familiar? And she didn't want to discuss it at all. The site also says that Blanchard had a physical confrontation with another WOW top star in front of others in the company, which followed weeks of tension, and that there was a fairly public shouting match between Blanchard and Maya Hasaka that resulted in Hasaka being reprimanded by WOW executives, but Blanchard was not. Some members felt that that wasn't fair to Hasaka. Blanchard reportedly began getting more and more power in the company and required certain things to be approved by her. In the second season of WOW, Tessa Blanchard became a trainer, and she also became the face of the company, becoming the WOW champion at the end of season 1 and head trainer, like I said, in season 2. This ramped up heavily the amount of power and support that she had within WOW. Several members of the roster who are longtime members of the promotion also believe that they lost their pushes due to Tessa making changes and instituting that those pushes be stopped in support of her and her star power. The site also adds that several people within Impact Wrestling have said that since Blanchard joined the company, several perceived attitude issues had gone away, but this doesn't seem to be the case in WOW. Blanchard is, of course, also under fire, like we said before, for the alleged use of the N-word against La Rosa Negra. But this is just more and more stuff being digged up about Tessa Blanchard. In my eyes, Tessa Blanchard was the 2019 Women's Wrestler of the Year. But like I said online to someone, you could be a great wrestler and an awful person. And the more and more stuff that keeps getting exposed about Tessa Blanchard, it is showing that she might not be as nice of a person as we all thought she was. I don't know if I can judge or speak on it any further than that. I can only speak on the stuff that has been reported or tweeted out into public. But this Tessa Blanchard story, I feel, is just scratching the surface. There is a lot to unpack about this Tessa Blanchard controversy, and I think more stories are going to come out, whether it's in her past or whether it's people in Impact Wrestling finally saying out loud some stuff that's happened there as well. Because I doubt that if she's doing this in WOW, she did this in Japan about 3 years ago, I doubt that she's completely been good during her entire time in Impact Wrestling, so we just have to wait and see. For our third count, we got to talk about the wrestling free agency, which quite possibly can be as interesting as the basketball free agency, which I feel is the best free agency in all of sports. It's like its own, it's like after the playoffs, the free agency is its own like thing that you have to follow. So I think it's the same thing with professional wrestling. Every January, like last January, with all the people signing with All Elite Wrestling or signing with WWE, MLW, NWA, ROH, PCO, all these guys went to different places, and now this January, it seems like the same thing is happening once again. We talked about on the last 3 count at Marty Scurll re-signed with ROH and also joined their booking team, but now we got to talk about Killer Kross. Killer Kross is a gentleman we talked about on a previous 3 count with SP3, how he acts, pleaded and begged for his release from Impact Wrestling, and he finally got it at the end of 2019. Now, most recently, this past week, he had a meeting with Triple H at the Performance Center in Orlando, Florida, and it looks like he is expected to sign with WWE. Killer Kross spent some time in Lucha Underground as well as Impact Wrestling. He had been seen as a future star in Impact Wrestling until, as months went on, it seemed like Impact weren't devoted into him. It was reported that he had contract issues. Basically, he was initially agreed to a deal, but felt that he was being underpaid by Impact Wrestling and asked for a raise. When Impact Wrestling denied his raise, he asked for his release from Impact Wrestling. Killer Kross is also the boyfriend of Scarlett Bordeaux, who also just signed with WWE just a couple of months back. So it seems that all the stars are aligned for Killer Kross to finally join the WWE. He has an appearance scheduled for MLW, Major League Wrestling, in Philadelphia at the beginning of February. So I expect his signing for WWE to happen maybe a couple of weeks after that. So Killer Kross is one to keep your eye on, but another to keep your eye on in the free agency world is Brian Cage. The former Impact Wrestling heavyweight champion has reportedly been likely and expected to sign with All Elite Wrestling. He had a very weird match and a very weird sign-off from Impact Wrestling at Impact Hard to Kill last weekend. He lost, I guess you could say, he lost his match to Rob Van Dam after a little angle where Rob Van Dam gave him the Van Terminator, and Brian Cage had a bloody mouth. It was a gimmick bloody mouth, and he was escorted off. This led to Daga coming out for the save and leading to a match between Daga and RVD. Shortly after Hard to Kill ended, reports started being leaked out that Brian Cage was likely to sign with AEW, and this was considered his write-off from Impact Wrestling. Brian Cage went out on Twitter and denied these reports, as well as his wife, Melissa Santos, who's an interviewer for Impact Wrestling, also came out and denied the reports, saying that he had not signed on any dotted line. Brian Cage also said he has not signed any contracts as of yet on his Instagram, but all of that leads me to say, bullshit! Everyone says that. Every wife says that. Talia Valkyrie said the same thing about John Morrison when it was reported that he was going to WWE. Guess what? John Morrison just had his return, his re-debut for WWE this past week on Friday Night SmackDown, defeating Big E. And I feel like one of his good friends in the professional wrestling world, Brian Cage, is the next to lie to the wrestling public and debut for a new promotion. Brian Cage in All Elite Wrestling gives them another big name, a name that has been a main eventer in other promotions. Like I said, Brian Cage just lost the Impact World Heavyweight Championship at the end of 2019 to Sami Callihan. He was actually a couple of weeks back scheduled to be on the Impact TV taping in Mexico City, him being one of the top stars in AAA for the last couple of years, but he was taking off of the advertisements for the TV taping, which was another big sign that he is likely to sign with a new promotion, and it seems that all the arrows are pointing to All Elite Wrestling. Brian Cage in All Elite Wrestling means that we can potentially see Brian Cage versus Kenny Omega, Brian Cage versus Pac, Brian Cage versus Cody Rhodes, Brian Cage versus Chris Jericho, Brian Cage versus Jon Moxley. So many potential great matchups for Brian Cage in All Elite Wrestling, and this is another big name that they can build on. And for a promotion that lacks a lot of big men, there are no better big men in the professional wrestling world than Brian Cage. This man is muscles upon muscles upon muscles and can fly through the air like a cruiserweight. So he is quite the star for All Elite Wrestling to add on in 2020. And then the last bit of free agency news from the professional wrestling world is Jazzy Gabbert, the alpha female of NXT UK, has gone out on Twitter and says that she is now officially a free agent. This goes after a couple of months back when it was considered that Jazzy had signed on with NXT UK, but it seems that this deal with NXT UK has only been like maybe a 6-month deal or 1-year deal. I don't know how long she's been officially in NXT UK, but it hasn't felt like that long at all. But apparently her deal is up, and that she is now a free agent and she is now taking bookings outside of WWE and NXT UK. Quite interesting turn of events for Jazzy Gabbert. She made quite the impression in the first round of the Mae Young Classic back in 2017. She had been the muscle for Ginny back in NXT UK, but it seemed that WWE and NXT UK weren't really devoted to making her one of the stars of their women's division. So I feel like Jazzy is making the right decision and maybe going out into the professional wrestling world and finding her place and finding a promotion where they will really build around her. I think this is the best move for Jazzy Jazzy Gabbert right now. And then our bonus count, we got to talk about a few notes from the Impact TV taping in Mexico City. Mexico City, a lot of things happened on the first night of the TV taping. Behind the camera, before the TV taping start, we had a little confrontation between Mexico legend Konnan and Psychosis #2. Psychosis #2 is not the same Psychosis that appeared in WCW Nitro, as well as in WWE as the Mexicools. This is the Psychosis that played Psychosis after the original Psychosis went over to America to wrestle with ECW and then WCW. Psychosis #2 had went out on Twitter and social media and basically at the end of last year said that the reason that he wasn't competing with AAA anymore was because of Konnan and his politicking backstage. Konnan went out and basically said, well, if I'm the one stopping you from being in AAA, why aren't you in any of these other big promotions? ROH, 205 Live, MLW, Impact Wrestling. He's like, there's so many other promotions for you to be in, and you're in none of them. So apparently it's not just me. It's other people who don't see your talent or don't want you in their promotion. Basically, Konnan was talking tough online, but when it came face to face before the Impact TV taping in Mexico City, Psychosis #2 brought that smoke to Konnan. The video is online where Psychosis #2 slapped Konnan across the face. Konnan decided to fall back. Psychosis #2 started yelling at Konnan, basically telling him, you want me to get arrested? Konnan had no interest in getting into a street fight, and it was security and a couple of officials that separated the two men. Psychosis #2 was allegedly calmed down after this slap and altercation with Konnan, and he was escorted off of their premises for the Impact TV taping in Mexico City. Very interesting. And then be in front of the camera last night in Mexico City, it was the Thick Mama Pump, Jordynne Grace, finally won the Impact Wrestling Knockouts Championship. This is a spoiler alert for you Impact Wrestling fans. I hope I didn't ruin it for you, but we have a new Impact Wrestling Knockouts champion. Jordynne Grace defeated the longest reigning Impact Wrestling Knockouts champion in history, Taya Valkyrie, at the TV taping. Taya Valkyrie, a big star in Mexico City, so she lost in her home base. But Jordynne Grace finally, after many attempts to get the title from Taya Valkyrie, she has defeated her in Mexico City to become the new Knockouts champion. So congratulations to Jordynne Grace, Thick Mama Pump. Very happy she was the perfect person to defeat Taya Valkyrie for the Impact Wrestling Knockouts Championship. So I'm very happy to hear Jordynne Grace got the victory and is your new Knockouts champion. So that is all for this edition of the 3 Count with SP3 for the weekend of January 18th, January 19th, 2020. Like I said at the start of this 3 Count, go online to misfits.com. My good, talented, as you see, talented nephew made this shirt. So if you want this exclusive shirt, Misunderstood, you can go to misfits.com or hit me up on the inbox on YouTube, and we'll give you that information on how you can get a t-shirt online. But if you enjoyed this video, push that like button. Put your comments down below if you want to talk about AEW being renewed on TNT for 4 more years, Tessa Blanchard's controversy and her latest allegations from WOW Woman of Wrestling, the wrestling free agency, whether that has to do with Killer Kross to WWE, Brian Case to AEW, or Jazzy Gabbert, the newest free agent, and any other notes from the Impact TV taping in Mexico City. Push that subscribe button and push the bell to stay notified for all the great videos right here on the Tru Heel Heat YouTube channel. So for myself, it is me, your Tru Heel Phenom SP3, signing off for the 3 Count with SP3. Until next time.